In 1921, America dropped bombs on its own citizens. Not in a foreign war, not on a distant battlefield. Right here, on American soil. Private planes circled above a thriving neighborhood, dropping incendiary devices, while machine guns rattled from the sky. And when the smoke finally cleared 2 days later, an entire city within a city had been erased from existence. This is the story of the Tulsa Race Massacre, and if you've never heard of it, that's exactly what they wanted. Picture this: Tulsa, Oklahoma, in the spring of 1921. Oil has just been discovered beneath the red earth, and the city is booming. Fortunes are being made overnight. Millionaires are minted weekly. But there's something unusual about Tulsa, something that makes it different from every other boomtown in America. Just north of the railroad tracks, separated from white Tulsa by a literal line drawn in the dirt, sits the Greenwood district. 35 blocks of the most prosperous black community in the entire United States. They call it Black Wall Street. And the name isn't an exaggeration. Walk down Greenwood Avenue on any given Saturday afternoon, and you'll see something that shouldn't exist in Jim Crow America. Black-owned banks, black-owned hotels, black-owned theaters showing the latest films, lawyers in three-piece suits heading to their offices, doctors making house calls in automobiles they own, not rent. Women in fashionable dresses, stepping out of luxury shops carrying packages wrapped in ribbon. There's the Dreamland Theater, where families gather for entertainment. The Stratford Hotel, a magnificent 54-room building that rivals any white establishment in the state. Gurley's Hotel, owned by O.W. Gurley, the wealthiest black man in Tulsa, maybe in all of Oklahoma. There are grocers and butchers, newspapers and printing presses, pool halls and restaurants, dress shops and barber shops. Everything a community needs, owned and operated by black hands. And every single white person in Tulsa knows it exists. They can see it from downtown, can see the lights at night, can hear the music on the weekends. And more than a few of them burn with resentment every time they look north across those tracks. Meet Mary Johnson, 25 years old, graduate of a Negro college, teacher at the Booker T. Washington School by day, and aspiring journalist by night. She lives in a modest but well-kept home on Greenwood Avenue with her husband John, their 7-year-old daughter Florence, and her mother, an elderly woman everyone calls Mother Williams. Mary has dreams. Big dreams. She's been saving money for 2 years to open her own printing press. She wants to publish a newspaper that will tell black stories, black successes, black achievements. She wants to document this miracle they're living in. A place where black people can actually thrive, can actually build wealth, can actually own something that can't be taken away. Or so she thinks. This particular Saturday morning, May 28th, 1921, Mary sits at her kitchen table, pen in hand, working on an article for the Tulsa Star, one of Greenwood's 2 black newspapers. She's writing about the latest business opening, a black-owned funeral home complete with its own fleet of automobiles. Progress, always progress. "Mama, stop working and eat your breakfast," Mother Williams says, setting down a plate of eggs and biscuits. The old woman's hands shake slightly. She's in her 70s now. Born into slavery, lived through Reconstruction, survived things Mary can barely imagine. "I'm almost finished," Mary replies, not looking up from her writing. "You're always almost finished." Mother Williams sits down heavily, her eyes drifting to the window, to the street outside where their neighbors are beginning their Saturday routines. "You ever wonder if they'll let us keep it?" Mary finally looks up. "Keep what?" "All this." Mother Williams gestures vaguely. This prosperity, this success, I've seen it before, child. Every time we build something beautiful, every time we rise up, they find a reason to tear it down. That was different times, Mama Williams. This is 1921. We have laws now, property rights, the Constitution. The Constitution. The old woman laughs, but there's no humor in it. Baby girl, I was born property according to the Constitution. Don't put too much faith in paper and ink. Mary wants to argue, wants to defend her optimism. But she's interrupted by the sound of her daughter Florence running through the house, chasing their cat. Florence Johnson, you slow down this instant, Mary calls out, but she's smiling. This is what they've built. A life, a future, a place where her daughter can grow up free and safe and full of possibility. If only she knew how little time they had left. The weekend passes in the ordinary rhythm of Greenwood life. Sunday services at the church where the choir sings and the preacher reminds them that the Lord rewards the righteous. Monday morning, Mary walks Florence to school, then continues on to her own classroom. But there's something different in the air. A tension. White Tulsans have been more hostile lately, their stares lasting a little too long, their comments a little too sharp. Just last week, Mary's husband, John, had an encounter at his grocery store. A white man came in, looked around at the well-stocked shelves, at the neat rows of canned goods and fresh produce, and said, "Sure is a nice place you got here. Be a shame if something happened to it." John had smiled politely, as black men learned to do in Oklahoma, and said nothing. But that night, lying in bed, he'd told Mary, "It's getting worse. The Klan's been recruiting heavy. They say there's over 40,000 members in Oklahoma now." Mary had tried to reassure him. "We have friends, good white people who do business with us. They won't let anything happen." But even as she said it, she wondered if she believed it. Monday, May 30th, Memorial Day. The city is quiet. Most businesses closed for the holiday. Dick Rowland, a 19-year-old shoe shiner, is working at his stand on Main Street. It's hot. Oklahoma in late May is always hot. And around noon, Dick needs to use the restroom. But this is Jim Crow, Oklahoma. There's no restroom for colored on the ground floor. The only one Dick can use is on the top floor of the Drexel building, 3 blocks away. So he walks there, enters the building, and steps into the elevator. The elevator operator is Sarah Page, a white woman, 17 years old. What happens next depends on who you ask. Some say Dick tripped entering the elevator. Some say the elevator lurched and he grabbed Sarah's arm to steady himself. Some say he stepped on her foot by accident. Some say nothing happened at all, that Sarah simply had a momentary fright at being alone with a black man in an enclosed space. What everyone agrees on is this. Sarah Page screamed. A white clerk in a nearby office heard the scream. He ran to the elevator shaft just in time to see Dick Rowland fleeing the building. In 1921, Oklahoma, a white woman's scream combined with a black man running could mean only one thing. By that evening, Dick Rowland is under arrest, accused of attempted rape. By Tuesday morning, the story is front-page news. And the Tulsa Tribune, the city's white newspaper, doesn't just report the facts. They inflame them. They sensationalize them. They print an editorial, now lost to history, that supposedly said, "To lynch Negro tonight." Mary first hears about it Tuesday afternoon when she leaves her classroom. The other teachers are gathered in the hallway, speaking in hushed, worried voices. "They arrested a boy named Dick Rowland," one of them says. They're saying he attacked a white girl. Mary's blood runs cold. She knows what this means. She's heard the stories from other towns, other states. A black man accused of touching a white woman. A mob forming outside the jail. A body hanging from a tree by morning. She rushes home to find John already there, along with several other men from the neighborhood. They're cleaning guns, hunting rifles, pistols, whatever they have. Mother Williams sits in the corner, silently watching, her face carved from stone. "What are you doing?" Mary asks, though she already knows. "We're going to the courthouse," John says, not meeting her eyes. "We're going to make sure they don't lynch that boy." "John, no, you can't." "We can." He finally looks at her, and his eyes are hard. "Mary, we've worked too hard, come too far, to stand by and watch them lynch another one of us. Some of us fought in France. We fought for democracy over there. We can damn well protect it here." By 6 o'clock that evening, roughly 75 armed black men, many of them World War I veterans, gather outside the Tulsa County Courthouse. Dick Rowland is inside, in a cell on the top floor. The sheriff has promised to protect him, but they've heard promises before. Mary watches them go from her front porch. Florence is inside with Mother Williams, both of them pretending everything is normal. But Mary can't pretend. She stands there as the sun sets, watching the men of Greenwood march toward downtown. And she feels it in her bones. This night will change everything. Downtown Tulsa is packed. Not with 75 people, not with 100, with over 2,000 white men, many of them armed, many of them drinking, all of them angry. They've gathered outside the courthouse, chanting, shouting, demanding the sheriff hand over Dick Rowland. When the black men arrive, orderly, disciplined, some in their old army uniforms, the white crowd falls momentarily silent. And in that silence, you can feel the shock, the audacity, the sheer nerve of these black men to show up armed, to dare to challenge white authority. "What are you boys doing here?" a white man calls out. "We're here to make sure there's no lynching tonight," one of the black veterans responds. His voice is steady. "We're here to see that the law is followed." The white crowd surges forward. The black men hold their ground. The sheriff appears on the courthouse steps, begging both sides to go home. "I've got this under control," he says. "Nobody's lynching anybody tonight. Now everybody disperse before somebody gets hurt." For a moment, it looks like it might work. Some of the black men start to leave, their point made, their presence enough to deter the mob. But then, a shot. Nobody knows who fired it. Nobody ever will. Maybe a white man trying to disarm a black veteran. Maybe someone's gun misfiring in the chaos. Maybe a deliberate provocation. But one shot becomes 2, becomes 10, becomes 100. The Battle of Tulsa has begun. Back in Greenwood, Mary hears the gunfire. It's distant at first, like fireworks, like thunder. But it doesn't stop. It grows. And then she sees them coming. Men with torches, men with guns. Hundreds of them, maybe thousands, pouring north across the railroad tracks like an invading army. Some are wearing police badges. They've been deputized, given official sanction to do what they're about to do. Many are in their nightshirts, roused from their beds by telephone trees, by word of mouth, by the promise of violence and plunder. "John!" Mary screams into the darkness. But John is downtown, and there's no way to reach him. Mother Williams appears at her shoulder. "Get Florence, get her now. We have to go." "Go where?" "This is our home." The old woman grabs Mary's arm with surprising strength. "Baby girl, I told you. I've seen this before. They're coming to burn us out. They're coming to kill us." Now get my grandbaby and let's go. But it's already too late. The first gunshots crack through the night air. Close now, so close. Someone screams. A neighbor, Mrs. Patterson from next door. Glass shatters. And then Mary sees it. Fire, blooming in the darkness like a terrible flower, consuming the house 3 doors down. Florence runs out of her room, crying. Mama, what's happening? Mary scoops her up, holds her close, and in that moment, staring at the flames spreading through her neighborhood, at the armed white men running through the streets, at the impossible nightmare unfolding before her eyes, Mary Johnson understands a terrible truth. They're not here to arrest anyone. They're not here to maintain order. They're here to destroy Greenwood completely, to burn Black Wall Street to the ground, to erase 35 blocks of Black success and Black prosperity from the face of the earth. And they're going to do it with the full blessing of the Tulsa Police Department. As flames climb higher into the Oklahoma night sky, as gunshots echo through streets where children played just hours before, as an entire community realizes it's under siege in its own country. One question hangs in the smoke-filled air. How do you survive when your own country decides you don't deserve to exist? Over the next 18 hours, the Greenwood district will be systematically destroyed. Planes will drop bombs from the sky. Machine guns will fire into crowds of fleeing families. And when it's over, the official death toll will be listed as 36. The actual number? Closer to 300, maybe more. Bodies buried in mass graves, records destroyed, history erased. But here's what they couldn't erase: the testimonies, the photographs hidden in attics, the stories whispered from grandmother to grandchild, the truth that refused to die no matter how deeply they buried it. What happened next to Mary, to Florence, to the 10,000 Black residents of Greenwood? How did they survive the longest night of their lives? And how did America manage to forget one of the worst acts of racial violence in its history for nearly 80 years? They say hell is a place you go after you die. But on June 1st, 1921, hell came to Greenwood while everyone was still alive. For 18 hours straight, American citizens hunted other American citizens through the streets. For 18 hours, a prosperous neighborhood was systematically erased from existence. And for 18 hours, Mary Johnson discovered exactly how much hatred the human heart can hold. The clock reads 11:47 p.m., May 31st, 1921. Mary stands frozen on her porch, Florence clutching her legs, Mother Williams gripping her shoulder. 3 doors down, the Henderson house is fully engulfed in flames. The fire climbing so high it lights up the entire block like daylight. But here's what makes Mary's blood turn to ice. The men setting the fires aren't just a mob. They're organized. They're moving house to house in formation, like soldiers clearing enemy territory. And pinned to their shirts, glinting in the firelight, are badges. Police badges. My God, Mary whispers. They've made it legal. Because that's exactly what happened. In the chaos of the courthouse shooting, Tulsa's police chief made a decision that would seal Greenwood's fate. He deputized every white man who showed up, gave them badges, gave them authority, gave them permission to do what they'd always wanted to do. Mother Williams pulls Mary back toward the door. We can't stay here. We have to... The front window explodes, not from a rock, from a bullet. The glass sprays inward like frozen rain, and Florence screams, and somewhere in Mary's mind, a switch flips. The teacher, the journalist, the woman who believed in laws and rights and the American dream. That woman dies in the space between one heartbeat and the next. What remains is pure survival instinct. Back door, now. Mary's voice doesn't sound like her own. She grabs Florence with one hand, Mother Williams with the other, and they run through the house. The house John built with his own hands, the house where they'd planned to grow old together, knowing they'll never see it again. They burst out the back door into an alley thick with smoke. Other families are fleeing too, shadows moving through the darkness, carrying children, dragging elderly parents, clutching whatever possessions they could grab in 30 seconds of terror. Which way? Mother Williams gasps. She's 73 years old, and running isn't something her body wants to do anymore. Mary looks left toward downtown. No, that's where the mob came from, right toward the edge of Greenwood. But will they be safe once they cross into white Tulsa? Will any black face be safe anywhere in this city tonight? Then she sees it. The church. Mid-Zion Baptist, 3 blocks north, its white steeple visible above the smoke. Churches are sanctuaries. Churches are protected. Surely they wouldn't. An explosion rocks the night. Not a gunshot. Something bigger. Something that makes the ground shake and sends a fireball climbing into the sky from somewhere near Greenwood Avenue. Mary will learn later that it was dynamite, thrown through the window of a black-owned store. But right now, she just knows one thing. They're not trying to control Greenwood. They're trying to annihilate it. They're half a block from the church when Mary sees him. John, her husband. He's running toward them from the direction of downtown, his face covered in blood, his shirt torn, but alive. Alive. John. She nearly collapses with relief. Thank God, I thought. No time. His voice is harsh, breathless. He's been shot. She can see it now, a wound in his left shoulder, blood soaking through his shirt. They're right behind me. Dozens of them. We have to... More gunshots, closer this time. Mary spins around and sees them, a group of white men, maybe 15 or 20, running up the street with rifles and torches. When they see John, they start shouting. There's one. Get that and a Kirker. John shoves Mary toward the church. Go. Take Florence and go. No. John, we stay together. Mary, listen to me. He grabs her face with both hands, forces her to look at him. In his eyes, she sees something that terrifies her more than the mob, more than the flames, more than any of this. Acceptance. He knows he's not going to make it. You keep our baby safe. You survive this. And you tell everyone what happened here. Promise me. John, please, promise me. I promise. He kisses her, hard and fast and final. Then he turns and runs. Not toward the church, but away from it, leading the mob away from his family, drawing their fire. Mary watches him disappear into the smoke, Mother Williams pulling at her arm, Florence crying against her chest. The last thing she sees is muzzle flashes in the darkness. The last thing she hears is gunshots, too many to count. Later, she'll wonder, did he die quickly? Did he suffer? Did he think of them in his final moments? But right now, she just runs. They reach Mid-Zion Baptist at 12:15 a.m. June 1st. The church is packed, hundreds of people crowded inside, families huddling in pews, children crying, elderly folks praying out loud. Pastor Williams stands at the pulpit, his voice booming through the chaos. The Lord is our shepherd, even in the valley of the shadow of death. The front doors burst open. 3 white men, all wearing deputy badges, all carrying rifles. Everybody out, now. The congregation freezes. For a moment, nobody moves. This is a church, a house of God. Surely they wouldn't. One of the deputies fires his rifle into the ceiling. Plaster rains down. A woman screams, "I said out! You're all under arrest." Arrest? Pastor William steps forward, his hands raised. On what charges? We've done nothing wrong. We're sheltering in our own church. The charge is being ours in a white man's city during a riot. Now get moving or we'll burn this building down with all of you inside. And Mary understands. There is no sanctuary. There is no safety. The rules of civilization have been suspended, and they're being hunted like animals. The congregation files out, hands raised, moving slowly. Outside, more deputies wait, along with regular citizens who've joined the mob. They're herded into lines, men separated from women, women separated from children. Florence clings to Mary so hard it hurts, and Mary whispers in her ear, "Don't let go of Mama. No matter what, don't let go." They're marched through the streets of Greenwood, and Mary sees what's being done to her neighborhood. Every house is either burning or being looted. White men load furniture onto trucks, sofas, dressers, pianos, anything of value. She watches a white woman try on a fur coat taken from someone's home, laughing as she models it for her friends. But worse than the looting is the killing. Bodies lie in the streets, black bodies. Men shot while trying to defend their homes, women caught fleeing. A boy, maybe 13, sprawled on a sidewalk, his schoolbooks scattered around him. How many dead? Mary tries to count, but loses track. 20, 40, more? And here's the question that will haunt her for the rest of her life. Where are the white people who claim to be their friends? The businessmen who bought from black vendors? The customers who shopped in Greenwood stores? The good white folks who always said they supported the community? They're either part of the mob or hiding in their homes. Either way, they're not helping. They're taken to the convention hall, a massive building downtown where the city hosts events and exhibitions. Except tonight, it's a prison. Thousands of black Tulsans are already there, guarded by armed white men. More arrive every hour, in trucks, in cars, marched in at gunpoint. Mary, Florence, and Mother Williams are shoved into a corner with hundreds of other women and children. There's no food, no water, no bathrooms, just buckets in the corner that overflow within hours. The smell of smoke and sweat and fear is overwhelming. A young woman next to Mary is crying, holding a baby. "They took my husband," she sobs. "Right in front of me. They just took him, and I don't know where." "Mama," Florence whispers, pulling on Mary's sleeve. "Is Daddy coming?" Mary can't answer. She just holds her daughter tighter. Morning comes. June 1st, 1921. And with daylight comes something even more terrifying. The realization that the massacre isn't over. Through the convention hall windows, Mary can see planes. Small private aircraft circling above Greenwood. At first, she thinks they're surveying the damage. Then, she sees the bombs drop. Not military bombs. This is 1921. These are private citizens in private planes. But they've rigged incendiary devices, homemade explosives, and they're dropping them on Greenwood from the sky. She watches a building explode, watches the roof of the Dreamland Theater collapse in flames. An elderly man near Mary starts laughing. Not a happy laugh, a broken laugh. "They're bombing us," he says, his voice cracking. "Americans bombing Americans. I fought in the Spanish War, defended this country, and now they're bombing us." A white guard walks past, overhears him. "You should have thought about that before you started a riot." "We didn't start anything. They came to lynch a boy and we tried to stop them." The guard's rifle butt catches the old man in the stomach. He collapses, wheezing. Nobody helps him. Nobody dares. Mary makes herself watch, makes herself remember every detail, because John made her promise to tell this story, and she won't forget a single moment of it. By afternoon, the white authorities have established a system, a horrible, efficient system. Every black person in Tulsa must be registered, tagged, and vouched for by a white employer before they can be released from detention. White people set up tables outside the convention hall. Black Tulsans line up, hat in hand, looking for any white face they recognize who might vouch for them. Please, Mr. Anderson, I worked for you for 5 years. You know I'm a good... Sorry, can't help you. Times are hard. Mrs. Peterson, I cleaned your house every week. Don't you remember? I don't recall. Next. Some white employers do vouch for their workers, but with conditions. You can work for me, but you can't live in Greenwood anymore. Understand? That neighborhood's done. Mary watches this degradation, this re-enslavement, and realizes what they're doing. They're using the crisis to break up the community permanently. No more Black Wall Street. No more independent black businesses. Back to being workers in white homes, laborers in white businesses, grateful for whatever scraps they're given. Mother Williams sees it too. They burned us out. Now they're putting us back in our place. This was always the plan, baby. The shooting was just an excuse. Mary wants to argue, wants to believe it's not that calculated, but she can't. Because deep down, she knows the old woman is right. 3 days pass in the convention hall. 3 days of sleeping on concrete floors, of bucket toilets and moldy bread and water that tastes like rust. Florence stops talking entirely. Mother Williams develops a cough that rattles in her chest. And John never comes. Mary asks everyone she sees. Have you seen John Johnson? Runs a grocery on Greenwood Avenue, tall, scar on his right hand. But nobody knows. Or maybe they do know and don't want to say. On day 4, they're visited by Red Cross workers, white women in uniforms, documenting the disaster. One of them, younger than the others, approaches Mary. I need to register you and your family. Mary gives their names mechanically. Then, my husband is missing. John Johnson. Can you help me find... Ma'am, I'm sorry, but we're not handling missing persons. You'll need to check with the police. The police did this. The Red Cross worker's pen pauses on her clipboard. For just a moment, Mary sees something in her eyes. Horror, maybe even shame. But then it's gone, replaced by professional distance. I'm sorry for your situation. Next family, please. That's when Mary understands. John is dead. She doesn't have a body, doesn't have confirmation. But she knows. He's buried somewhere in the mass graves they're digging at Oak Lawn Cemetery, or his body was burned with the buildings, or thrown in the Arkansas River. Gone, erased, like he never existed. She doesn't cry. There's no time for crying. Florence needs her. Mother Williams needs her. And somewhere, somehow, she needs to survive this so she can keep her promise. On June 10th, 10 days after the massacre began, Mary, Florence, and Mother Williams are finally released. A white woman Mary had never met vouches for them, needing domestic workers. Mary has to sign a paper agreeing to work for 75 cents a day. She signs without reading it. They're given a tag to wear, a green card that says, Police Protection. Without it, they can be arrested on sight. It's like being branded, like being marked as property. They walk back to Greenwood, though Mary knows what she'll find. Still, knowing and seeing are different things. 35 blocks of absolute devastation. Not a building left standing, not a business intact. Just ashes and rubble and twisted metal and the blackened husks of what were once homes. The smell of smoke still hangs in the air, mixing with something worse. The sweet, sick smell of death. Their house, the house John built, is a foundation and 4 chimneys. Everything else is gone. The furniture Mary's grandmother gave her, Florence's toys, the manuscript Mary had been writing, the photographs of their wedding day. All of it. Ash. Florence walks through the ruins, her little feet kicking up soot. She picks up something, a piece of melted glass, warped by heat. "Mama, is this my marble?" Mary can't speak. She just nods. Mother Williams walks to where the porch used to be, where she'd sit every evening and watch the neighborhood. She stands there for a long moment, then turns to Mary with tears streaming down her face. "They burned down heaven," the old woman says. "We had heaven right here on earth, and they burned it down because they couldn't stand to see us happy." But the horror isn't over. The next day, Mary sees something that makes her blood boil. City officials announcing that Greenwood will be permanently rezoned for industrial use only. No residential rebuilding allowed. The black families who owned property for decades are being told their land is now worthless. Condemned. Insurance companies refuse to pay claims. Mary learns that of the 1,256 houses destroyed, only 1 insurance claim will be honored, for a white man who lost his pawn shop on the edge of Greenwood. At a public meeting, the mayor actually says, "Let the blame for this Negro uprising lie where it belongs, with the lawless Negroes themselves." The white newspapers print it as fact. The black community started the riot. The black community destroyed their own neighborhood. The black community is to blame. History is being rewritten in real time, and Mary is helpless to stop it. She watches white contractors demolish what little remains standing, watches bulldozers push rubble into piles, watches trucks haul away the bricks and lumber, property stolen twice, first by looting, now by cleanup. But then something happens that nobody expected, least of all the white city officials who planned Greenwood's permanent erasure. The black community refuses to leave. O.W. Gurley, the wealthiest black man in Tulsa, stands in front of the convention hall with a bullhorn. Around him, hundreds of black Tulsans gather, homeless, traumatized, many still wearing the green police protection tags. "They burned our homes," Gurley shouts, "but this is still our land. They may have the badges and the guns, but we have the deeds. We own this property, and we're not leaving." It starts slowly. One family pitches a tent where their house used to be, then another, then another. Within days, there's a tent city in Greenwood. People living in canvas shelters among the ruins, cooking over open fires, rebuilding with their bare hands. The city threatens arrests. The police patrol constantly. But the black families stay. Mary, Florence, and Mother Williams live in a tent for 6 months. Mother Williams' cough gets worse, living in the cold, breathing smoke-damaged air. Mary works cleaning houses for white families during the day, then comes home at night to write by candlelight. She's documenting everything, every testimony she can collect, every story from survivors, the names of the dead when she can learn them, the locations of businesses destroyed, the value of property lost. She's creating a record, hidden in a battered notebook, because she knows they're trying to erase this from history. And she's not the only one. Other survivors are writing letters, taking photographs they've hidden from police, collecting evidence. They know what's happening. America is trying to forget the Tulsa Race Massacre before it even becomes history. November 1921. The first snow falls on the Greenwood tent city. Mother Williams is in bed, just a cot, really, in a canvas tent that leaks, and her cough has turned into pneumonia. Mary sits beside her, holding her hand. Florence sleeps nearby, curled under every blanket they own. "I'm sorry, baby," Mother Williams whispers. Her voice is so weak, Mary has to lean close to hear. "I'm sorry I won't live to see you rebuild." "Don't talk like that. You're going to be fine. Come spring, we'll have a real house again and—" "Mary." The old woman squeezes her hand. "Stop, I'm dying, and we both know it. But I need you to listen to me now. You listening?" Mary nods, tears streaming down her face. "You're going to survive this. You and Florence both. You're going to rebuild what they burned. You're going to tell this story to anyone who'll listen. And you're not going to let them forget. You hear me? Don't let them forget what they did to us." "I won't. I promise." "Good." Mother Williams smiled. "And Mary, one more thing. Don't hate them. I know that's hard, but don't let hate poison you. What they did was evil, but you keep being good. You keep being kind. Because that's how we win. We survive. We keep loving. We keep building. And we don't let them turn us into what they are." She dies that night, in a tent city built on the ashes of Black Wall Street, 7 months after the massacre. Mary buries her in Oaklawn Cemetery, in an unmarked grave because they can't afford a headstone. At the funeral, only 6 people attend, but each one has lost everything. And each one is still here, still fighting, still refusing to be erased. As Mary stands at her mother-in-law's grave, as snow falls on the ruins of Greenwood, as Florence shivers in a coat too thin for winter, one question burns in Mary's mind, a question that will drive her for the next 80 years. If they can destroy an entire neighborhood, kill hundreds of people, and face no consequences, what's to stop them from doing it again? The answer, Mary will discover, is nothing. Nothing is stopping them except the refusal of survivors to be silent. Nothing is protecting Black communities except their own determination to rebuild, to remember, to resist. But here's what the white authorities don't understand. You can burn down buildings, but you can't burn down memory. You can kill people, but you can't kill their stories. You can try to erase history, but somewhere, someone is always writing it down. Mary looks at the notebook hidden in her coat. Pages and pages of testimony, of names, of truth. It's not much. It won't bring John back. It won't restore what was stolen. But it's something. It's a promise kept. And sometimes, that's how you survive hell. One promise at a time, one word at a time, one stubborn refusal to forget at a time. The question isn't whether they'll rebuild. They will. The question is, will America ever acknowledge what it did? Will the truth ever come to light? And will anyone be held accountable for the worst act of racial violence in American history? The answers will take 100 years to emerge. But Mary will wait. She has nothing but time and a story that refuses to die. Here's a question that will haunt America for the next 80 years. How do you erase a massacre that thousands of people witnessed? The answer, it turns out, is surprisingly simple. You don't talk about it. You don't teach it in schools. You don't write it in history books. You threaten anyone who tries to speak up. And you wait for the survivors to die. But here's what the authorities in Tulsa didn't count on. Mary Johnson refused to stay silent. And she wasn't alone. Winter 1921 turns to spring 1922. And something remarkable happens in Greenwood. Against every obstacle, against every threat, against the city's explicit plan to prevent it. The black community begins to rebuild. Not with government help, not with insurance money, not with anything except their own labor, their own savings, and their own unbreakable will. Mary works 3 jobs. She cleans houses for white families by day. She takes in laundry at night. And in the hours before dawn, while Florence sleeps in their tent, she writes, page after page, documenting everything, every name she can remember. Every business that was destroyed, every person who died. In 1922, she takes what little money she saved, money that should go toward building a new house, and she does something audacious. She self-publishes a small book, Events of the Tulsa Disaster. The print run is tiny, maybe 100 copies. Most of them she gives away to other survivors, to black churches, to anyone who will read it. The rest she hides, wrapped in oilcloth, buried in a metal box beneath where her house will eventually stand. "Why are you burying it, Mama?" Florence asks. She's 8 now, thin from months of poor nutrition, old beyond her years. "Because someday," Mary says, patting down the dirt, "someone's going to look for the truth. And when they do, they'll find it here. The truth doesn't die, baby. It just waits." But publishing her account comes with consequences. She receives threats. Notes slipped under her tent flap in the middle of the night. "Keep quiet, or you'll burn again." A dead rat left on her doorstep. White men who slow their cars when they drive past, staring. She doesn't stop writing. By 1925, Greenwood is rising again. Not as prosperous as before, that's impossible. The wealth destroyed in those 18 hours represented generations of accumulated capital, gone forever. But the community is alive. New businesses open, new houses are built. The Dreamland Theater is reconstructed. Children attend school again. Florence grows up in this rebuilt Greenwood, carrying scars she'll never fully heal from. She flinches at loud noises. She can't sleep when there's smoke in the air. At 16, she asks her mother, "Why did they hate us so much?" Mary doesn't have an answer that makes sense. How do you explain that level of hate to a child? How do you tell her that they were attacked for being successful, for being proud, for daring to thrive? "Some people," Mary finally says, "can't stand to see others happy, especially when those people look different from them." It's not a good answer, but it's the only one she has. Here's where the story takes its most insidious turn. Because while Greenwood is rebuilding, something else is happening across Tulsa, across Oklahoma, across America. The massacre is being erased from collective memory. In 1923, the Oklahoma legislature passes a bill that indemnifies all white participants in the massacre. Not a single person is charged with murder. Not a single person faces trial. The bill ensures that no survivor can successfully sue for damages. School textbooks make no mention of it. Newspapers stop referring to it. Even among white Tulsans who lived through it, a strange amnesia sets in. Parents don't tell their children. The event becomes known only as "that time there was trouble in North Tulsa," if it's mentioned at all. Mary watches this erasure happen in real time. She's now in her 40s, working as a teacher again in the rebuilt Booker T. Washington School. When she tries to teach her students about what happened, children whose parents survived the massacre, the school board warns her, "Stick to the approved curriculum." "But this is our history," she protests. "The board has decided it's too controversial. You will not teach it." So she teaches it anyway, in secret after school, to small groups of students who want to know why there are empty lots throughout Greenwood, why certain buildings have never been rebuilt, why their grandparents wake up screaming at night. Florence, now grown with children of her own, asks her mother, "Why do you keep fighting this? Nobody cares. Nobody wants to remember." "Because," Mary says, now in her 60s, her hair turned gray, her hands arthritic from decades of hard labor. "The truth matters. Even if nobody's listening right now, someday they will. And when they do, they need to know what really happened." She keeps writing, keeps documenting, keeps collecting testimonies from aging survivors. Her metal box buried beneath her house grows fuller with papers, photographs, letters, a time capsule of truth waiting to be discovered. 50 years after the massacre. Mary Johnson is 75 years old, and most of the world has forgotten what happened in Tulsa. But something is changing in America. The civil rights movement has forced uncomfortable conversations about racism. Young people are demanding truth. A young historian named Scott Ellsworth, working on his graduate thesis, hears rumors about something that happened in Tulsa. He starts investigating. And what he finds shocks him. One of the worst incidents of racial violence in American history, completely absent from the historical record. He tracks down survivors. There aren't many left. Most are in their 70s and 80s now. But they remember. Oh, do they remember? Mary opens her door one afternoon to find this young white man standing there. Nervous, respectful, holding a tape recorder. "Mrs. Johnson, I'm trying to document what happened in 1921. I was told you might be willing to talk to me." For a long moment, Mary just looks at him. 50 years. 50 years she's waited for someone to ask. 50 years of silence and erasure and being told to forget. "Come in," she says. "I've been waiting for you." The interview lasts 6 hours. Mary tells him everything, shows him her hidden manuscripts, gives him names of other survivors. When it's over, Ellsworth sits there, his tape recorder full, his notebook overflowing, tears streaming down his face. "How did this get forgotten?" he asks. "How did we not know?" "Because," Mary says gently, "nobody wanted to remember. It was easier to forget." But now, the forgetting is ending. In 1978, the Oklahoma legislature finally acknowledges the massacre. Not as a riot, but as what it was. A massacre. In 1997, they establish a commission to investigate and produce a comprehensive report. Survivors testify publicly for the first time. They're old now, in their 80s and 90s. But their memories are crystalline. They describe the planes, the bombs, the bodies, the terror, and America slowly starts to listen. Mary Johnson dies in 2003 at the age of 107. She lived long enough to see the truth acknowledged, though not long enough to see justice delivered. At her funeral, her great-granddaughter, also named Mary, discovers the metal box buried beneath the old house. Inside, decades of documentation, testimonies, photographs, names of the dead that official records claimed never existed. A complete historical archive, preserved by one woman's stubborn refusal to forget. The younger Mary holds her great-grandmother's writings and understands. This was always the plan. This was what she'd been waiting for. Someone to carry the story forward. May 19th, 2021, 100 years after the massacre. 3 survivors testify before Congress. The oldest, Viola Fletcher, is 107 years old, the same age Mary Johnson was when she died. "I have lived through the massacre every day," Viola tells Congress, her voice steady despite her age. "Our country may forget this history, but I cannot. I will never forget the violence of the white mob when we left our home. Hughes Van Ellis, 100 years old, adds, "I was born on this soil. My family was one of the founding families of Greenwood. I'm a proud veteran of the United States Army. But I've spent my entire life watching my country pretend that what happened to us didn't happen." Leslie Benningfield Randall, 106, speaks via video. "My opportunities were taken from me and my community. Black Tulsa is still messed up today. They didn't rebuild it. It's empty. It's a ghetto. Please do not let me leave this earth without justice." These aren't just survivors. They're living witnesses to one of America's greatest crimes, and they're running out of time. The question isn't just what happened in Tulsa anymore. It's what America is going to do about it. Reparations lawsuits are filed, and filed, and filed again. Most are dismissed on technicalities. The survivors are told they've waited too long to sue, despite the fact that the massacre was deliberately hidden from them for decades. In 2020, the death of George Floyd sparks a national reckoning with racial violence. Suddenly, Tulsa isn't ancient history. It's a blueprint, a warning, a pattern that has repeated across America for centuries. Mass graves are discovered in Oak Lawn Cemetery. Ground-penetrating radar reveals anomalies. Dozens of bodies, buried without markers, without records, without dignity. Forensic archaeologists begin excavations. They're still finding victims. In 2025, Tulsa announces a $105 million reparations package. Not just for direct survivors, there are only 2 left alive now, but for descendants and for community rebuilding. It's a start. But is it enough? Can money ever compensate for what was stolen? Today, the massacre is taught in Oklahoma schools. It's in textbooks. There are museums and memorials. HBO's Watchmen introduced it to millions who'd never heard of it. Documentaries proliferate. But here's what's remarkable. None of this would exist if Mary Johnson and survivors like her had stayed silent. If they'd given up. If they'd let the erasure succeed. They didn't. They wrote it down. They testified. They kept the truth alive through decades when nobody wanted to hear it. The younger Mary, the great-granddaughter, now runs the Greenwood Cultural Center. She gives tours to visitors from around the world. She shows them the old photographs, the survivor testimonies, her great-grandmother's hidden manuscripts. "People ask me," she tells a group of students, "why we keep talking about something that happened so long ago. Why can't we just move on?" And I tell them, because the victims never got justice. Because the perpetrators were never punished. Because for 80 years, America pretended this never happened. And because if we forget, it can happen again. On June 1st, every year, survivors and descendants gather at Vernon AME Church, one of the few buildings that survived the massacre. They light candles. They read names. They remember. This year, only 1 survivor attended. Next year, there may be none. The last living witnesses are passing away, taking their first-hand memories with them. But here's what can't die: the truth. Mary Johnson made sure of that. She and thousands of others who refused to forget, who documented, who testified, who passed the story down through generations. The planes that bombed Black Wall Street, the bodies buried in mass graves, the wealth destroyed that could never be recovered. The trauma that echoes through 4 generations now, the erasure that lasted 80 years, all of it preserved, all of it testified to, all of it impossible to deny. So here's my question for you. Sitting there watching this video, what are you going to do with this knowledge? Because now you know, you can't unknow it. The Tulsa Race Massacre happened. It was covered up. And for a century, America got away with one of the worst acts of domestic terrorism in our history. But knowledge demands action. Truth demands response. So I want you to do 3 things right now. First, hit subscribe button if this story affected you. If you think more people need to know about Tulsa, if you believe truth matters more than comfortable lies, show it. Second, like and share this video. Share it with your family, your friends, your social media. Because the survivors ask for one thing: don't let this be forgotten again. Every share is an act of remembrance. Third, and this is the most important, leave a comment telling me, what does justice look like for Tulsa? Is it reparations? Is it education? Is it something else? I want to hear your thoughts, your ideas, your vision for how we make this right. Because here's the truth. Those survivors who testified before Congress, they're not asking for revenge. They're asking for acknowledgement, for truth, for America to finally face what it did. Mary Johnson kept her promise. She told the story. She made sure the truth survived. Now it's our turn. We have to decide, do we carry this truth forward? Do we demand justice? Do we make sure that what happened in Tulsa never happens again? The answer is up to you. Remember Tulsa. Never forget. Never again.